start.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Satya Devi, a final year student of Triple E Department, SCAT College of Engineering and Technology, Cheranma Devi. Now I introduce our resource person, Mr. George Nadar, who is our alumni, and now he is working as a senior executive engineer, Deutsche Bank, Mumbai. I welcome you, sir, and I welcome our dear participants. Dear participants, I request you to mute your microphones during the session. If you have any queries, please drop a message in the chat box and it will be answered by our resource person at the end of the session. And all the participants are requested to fill the attendance and feedback form for which the link will be posted at the end of the session. Now I hand over the session to our resource person, Mr. George, to deliver today's webinar session. I welcome you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Satya. Hello, everyone. This is George, and today we are going to discuss about an interesting topic, hindrance faced by the entrepreneurs. So let me share my screen first, just a second. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, visible.
Yeah. Okay. So in today's session, we shall understand who an entrepreneur is and how and why someone ought to become one, and what are the challenges faced by an entrepreneur. So first we'll start with who is an entrepreneur. There are two aspects of looking at it. First is as a starter, and the second one is a driver. An entrepreneur is a starter or an initiator, someone that creates something new, either an initiative or a business or a company. He or she is the beginning and sometimes the end of a project or activity. The entrepreneur may not be an ideator, but he or she is definitely the one who decides to make the idea a reality. So the second aspect is as a driver. So the entrepreneur is a driver, is the person in charge, the leader, and the person to look for leadership. He or she is the one that pushes forward and inspires the whole team to follow. An entrepreneur is the one that sits in the driver's seat and has the ability to change the direction, speed up, slow down, or even stop a venture. He is the one who shows the way to his team, which way to follow. So, what makes people choose to be an entrepreneur? There are a couple of important things that attracts people and makes them to opt out to be an entrepreneur. There are a couple of reasons mentioned on the slide, like flexibility, leadership, establishment, vision, wealth. So what are these exactly? So let's start with wealth. You're lying to yourself if you say that you never thought about money. Everyone wants to make more money, that too in a short period of time. So one of the biggest motivation for becoming an entrepreneur is the unlimited income potential. With the right timing and right idea, you can build a wealth which is just isn't possible with a traditional career. Granted, it's not that easy. If that with that amount of time and with right idea, you can just build it in just lesser time as compared to a regular traditional career. Second thing is flexibility. For some entrepreneurs, the thrill of flexible schedule and having the own work environment is the key. So when you are an entrepreneur, you are the boss. So you get to choose what is the time, when you want to work, when you don't want to work, when you will be doing this. So you have control over all those works, and it is completely flexible. You can decide what you want. So you get to make your own rules, create your own space, which the corporate world doesn't offer. In corporate world, what we do, we just follow the rules of others. We just are bounded by the rules of others, which we have to follow. So the flexibility is one of the things that attracts people to be an entrepreneur. Next is leadership. So some entrepreneurs are thrilled as a notion of becoming a leader. They want to make their own decision. Like we have leaders everywhere. So when we see their qualities are like making their own decision and building their own teams and lead their team to achieve a vision, the goal. So there is a certain appeal to be in charge, and entrepreneurship is a fantastic doorway to open that possibility. Then we have establishment. For some people, entrepreneurship is more about creating something. They may want their name to be tied to a great company, or they may want to leave a legacy behind for the children and grandchildren. Just like you can see so many branded things, like we have Apple, we have Dell, we have other brands, other important brands which we just know by name. So that is like the establishment, the things they have established so far. Just by their saying their name, we know who they are. So that is what establishment is. To establish your name, which lives even after you as a legacy. Next thing is vision. Some entrepreneurs are there to change the world. They don't care about making money or having more flexible schedule. They have a vision. They have some aim in mind which they want to make it work. So they are there to achieve their future. They don't care about money. They just don't care about anything else. They just want their aim and the futuristic things to work. There are so many things, so many advantages. So people could ask, why anyone just go and become an entrepreneur? So there are a couple of hindrances, there are a couple of challenges which they face, due to which only few choose to go that way. So which can be broadly classified into two types. One is basic hindrances and major hindrances. So we shall start with basic hindrances. First thing is cash flow management. The name itself says it is cash flow. It's the way to manage the flow of cash. It is an integral part of business venture, and the instances are not rare when entrepreneurs struggle when the bill payment while waiting for their bills to get cleared. So as an entrepreneur, you invest in some company and you build them. And to get a payback, it might take some delay. So when you depend on something else to pay your bills, there is a delay which usually occurs due to delayed invoicing. So in such cases, depending upon your payback to pay your bills can be challenging, as there could be a delay. Hence, cash flow management is important thing which helps you to keep in track. It will show you where you're spending your cash, where you're getting your income, and keeping the track will help you accordingly for the future. Next thing is time management. This is the thing that we face as a challenge, not just as an entrepreneur, as an engineer as well, we face it every day. So what is the biggest challenge faced by multitasking entrepreneurs who often fall short of time? This leads to problems in accomplishing the objective. Hence, it is important for an entrepreneur to understand which task should come first and how much time he can allocate on which task. So if you properly manage the time, we can just divide into multiple parts like urgent and important, urgent, not important, and not urgent but important. In that way, if you classify it and manage your time, allocate your time for each and every task specifically, your time management is better, which leads to less challenge. When you have multiple works can be done according to their priority. So delegating the task and allocating the time is the key for efficient operation. Next thing is about hiring of employees. Yes, of course, when you are an entrepreneur, you just start an organization and you want the employees to work under you because you can do all the jobs at once. So you hire your employees. So in reality, entrepreneurs dread job interviews as it's usually very time consuming. They need to review resumes, conduct interviews, and filter out unqualified candidates for finding the ones who are best suited for the job. So following through all the process, it's really time consuming. And the screening, once the screening process is completed, entrepreneurs need to negotiate on the salary aspect, which is the utmost expectation of all the employees. So he has to make sure he gives enough salary to the employee for in order to retain him without bleeding the company's fund margin, because that's very important. You have a fund margin and you shouldn't cross it. At the same time, you need to retain the candidate. So this is the thing that really matters when you are hiring an employee. There is a couple of question arises like, should I hire a family member, or should the person be brought as a contractor or a part-time job or a full-time employee, or should he be working on a site or he can work remotely? So there are these questions rises. So each and every questions create new challenge to the employee, to the entrepreneur. So according to that, he or she should take proper responsibility and take the employees, hire the employees according to that. Next thing is choosing a product. Of course, when you're an entrepreneur, you just introduce a new product in the market. Since you're new to the market, entrepreneurs are often unsure about the products and services they wish to sell. So it's all about the product you are selling. You should make sure it is perfect for the market, the current market. So if you go in the market, there are hundreds and thousands of products. Some are well established and some are not. Hence, it takes research and knowledge to take the right pick, which can determine if it is ultimate success or failure in a competitive scenario. So choosing a product is really a challenging thing when you become an entrepreneur. Next thing is delegation of task. So delegation of task is like when you build an organization, you are the boss. So under you, there are so many employees working and you have a huge job to be delegated to them. So you are the one who assigns who will do which job, delegating their job to each and every one. So you should know how employees work, their skills. Everything is important when everything is taken into consideration. And when you delegate the job amongst them, it is very important that you give the authority and the resources they require to complete the job. However, finding the resources and choosing suitable process for them, it can be a very complicated task. So these are some of major hindrances that they face. Now, what are the other hindrances that an entrepreneur faces other than this? So there are a couple of things. We'll start with finance. And this is the most common problem when we become an entrepreneur. We are busting up with ideas. We have so many ideas in our mind. Those are unique and that can make amazing business. But the problem is no matter how your good idea is, you'll always need a stable finance. Without finance, you won't be able to start what you are aiming. So the main challenge that an entrepreneur faces when starting a business is the banks or the investors. They need to trust you first, which is the biggest problem. They don't trust you because they have the fear, like the banks, the private investors, the organization. Whoever is investing in you, they should believe in you. But they have a fear that if in case this doesn't work and in case this fails, they will be losing their money. So it is a very challenging task to build up that in the minds of private sectors. Build that trust is really very challenging task in case of entrepreneurs. Next thing is fear of not to be success. This is the fear we all have. No matter if it is starting a new thing or going a race or challenging anything, whenever we do some work, we have fear of failure. And sometimes it is the thing that keeps us moving. But when you are a leader, fear of failure shouldn't, it elevates with number of things you have to do. If the risk is high, the fear of failure elevates. And if there is a fear, we are on the right track. The fear is like, is the idea worthwhile? Will there be profit? Will I find investors? And various such fears and tensions acts as barriers to entrepreneurship. Next thing is no strategic plan in place. So lack of proper planning and strategy is one of the most common barriers to entrepreneurship. Many of us think to build a business out of a hobby. Just like we find a hobby and we just want to convert it to business without thinking about anything. So that leads to a problem. Running fully fledged business requires huge amount of skill set, passion, and excelling strategic vision and missions to accomplish goals, market research, and a lot more. So when you blindly go in, you just lose all of this, and that results in a failure. The target market, finances, human resources, proper strategic plans, all of this is required when you're starting a successful business or a brand in the market. Next thing is human resource issues. Entrepreneurs cannot handle and run business alone by themselves. We need a support of human resource to build a team that can stand out in the market. So as I said earlier, when you are building an organization, there would be employees which you need to hire. So for that purpose, you'd need human resources. These people are excellent in finding out the people in the market who are excelling in their fields. So these people will choose the correct person for your whatever your idea is. In order to meet the expectations of you, these people will find the proper employees for your business. So the employees with required knowledge, expertise, and experience are needed for the efficiency of business process and high level of productivity. First of all, it's quite difficult to find the employees that share the same vision and wavelength of the business. Plus, paying a hefty annual income is a problem at the startup because when you are a startup, the finance in hand are always limited. And the overhead expenses also have to be taken care of. And secondly, it is difficult to manage human resources as each of us work with different mindset and perspective. Hence, human resource and employees can one of be the biggest barriers to entrepreneurship. Next thing is stringent rules and regulations of the market. It is not easy for an entrepreneurs to enter a new market as there are quite many rules and regulations imposed by government authorities. No matter where you go, you will have to follow the rules and regulation imposed by governments. So there are various laws and compliance to be adhered, such as taxation, environmental regulations, licenses, property rights, and much more. So when you go as a starter, this acts as the biggest barrier to entrepreneurship. Some of the countries may have corrupt official that acts as a hindrance for new entrepreneurs and startup brands to start or expand business in the market. And if the brand planning is expand to its business to different countries like foreign countries, then it gets even more difficult because of their own regulations that are applied by the government in their own countries. Next thing is fewer opportunities. Even though there is a talent pool in the market, everyone has a talent. Everyone is buzzing with ideas and opportunities, and the opportunities they have are quite very less and fewer. There are a couple of reasons. Some of the reasons like nepotism, that is using their power or influence to take out the opportunities. When they take the opportunities in that way, the one who is trying, the one who has so many ideas, they don't get to try it out. So the corruption acts as barriers to entrepreneurship with not many opportunities reaching out to the starters. Next thing is lack of capacity. This is something like when even there are hundreds of opportunities which are presented to aspiring entrepreneurs, there is lack of capacity and to embrace the opportunities with open arms. The reason can be multiple things. It varies from person to person, like lack of knowledge, lack of education, lack of willingness, and lack of strategic knowledge. And also, some places it's like cultural hindrances among the others. So, to start a new business venture, amidst all the risk and market related issues. It requires a lot of hard work, passion, and high capacity to handle all of it. Next one is less market experience. The experts always mention that one should never rush in setting up a business. When you're new, it is best to learn it first, then to apply it. It is quite necessary to gain a relative amount of work experience by working in the industry. Like if you want to release a product which is electronics, so first you have to work with that and you have to understand completely how it works, then you can release it instead of directly doing it. So it also helps to sharpen the required expertise and find the ground in the career graph. Once the person is ready to take risks and have relative amount of market exposure, he is ready to take on. Next is lack of risk taking capacity. It is always said that entrepreneurs never fail. They never sail on the safe waters, and they are never confined to their comfort zones. Because once you are in the comfort zone, you lose your risk taking capacity. So lack of risk taking capacity is psychological mindset and acts as one of the major barriers to entrepreneurship. The next one is corrupt business situations. As mentioned earlier, if the business situation and environment are not very supportive and corrupt for young and aspiring entrepreneurs, it acts as one of the top barriers. You have the ideas, you have the opportunity, you move towards it, but then you see a demotivation, or it could be anything like corruption, you have no finance support, it could be anything that acts as a barrier and demotivate you and make you step back. So it's like bribing, corruption, unfriendly ties with government authorities, inconsistent laws, compliances, and enforcing regulations that are unhealthy and negative in approach. It would hamper the growth of business in the country. Next thing is inadequate training. With no proper education, development, training, and entrepreneurial skills, it is challenging task to achieve a vision. So when you are moving out as an entrepreneur, you just need a proper training. So how do you train it? You don't just get trained as a learning, as you go in a college and learn it. No, it's not. It's not such a thing. Learning is through experience. Just as I said before, when you are going to a particular field, just learn about that field. They're just like working into it. Start working in that field first, understand the field, then you go as an entrepreneur. That will have you all the knowledge you need for starting your business. Now, next is lack of practical knowledge. Having a strong background, educational background, that is theoretical knowledge you have gained, is not enough to pursue business, as it requires practical knowledge as well. And many entrepreneurs lack practical knowledge. It creates challenge to cope up with the real world, because there's so much of difference between what you knew and what's happening in the real world. So that acts as a barrier to make you step forward. So these are the couple of hindrances that we face. Now, how can we overcome that? There will always be hindrance. No matter what you do, it will be there. So all we can do is to overcome those hindrances. So a couple of tactics you can try. Just as you can do, first thing is don't complain. When you start complaining, it is just like the reason you make it up for unable to do it. So the best thing is to not to complain. Learn to approach the difficulties in a positive way instead of complaining. Ask for help and suggestion from others who might have been through similar situations. You have to be willing to help yourself. People can't do it for you. So it's only you who can help you. The next thing is facing it head on. So it's like when there is a trouble, there is a challenge. You just don't have to go around the bush. If you're having some issue, do something about it. Burying it or going away from it does nothing but eat you away eventually. So if you don't know what to do, seek counseling. Then try something. If that doesn't work, try something else. Do anything, but not the same thing that previously didn't work. Next thing is stay positive. Staying positive, it works in almost every case. But it is not easy, and it is very really difficult to stay positive when the things aren't good among with you. So when you are making a difficult situation or when the situation is really hard, you should try to be as positive as you are to have a better outcome of it. Next thing is being realistic. Realize that you may not get the outcome you want. You may be expecting a lot, but you might have just got a 50 or 60% of it. That doesn't mean that you wouldn't be getting it. You just have to be patient for the time to come, and in the right time, there will be something better, and we just need to be patient for that. And next thing is don't try to outdo people. This is the most common mistake everyone does, trying to outdo people. If you see that that guy is growing in that way, so if I copy him, I'll be like that. No, that doesn't work that way. It works differently for each and every one. You are unique, so don't compare yourself with other person's growth. You have your own idea. Keep your pace steady and try working towards a business and with a complete focus. Next thing is emotional balance. When dealing with issues in business, we sometimes forget that there's more than just a logical side. People take some decision because of emotion. Whether they believe it or not, they just take because of emotion. Just a simple thing like jealousy. It is you just take decision because you just want to show them that you can do it. That may be not profitable to you, yet to do it because of those emotions. And past experiences or fears can also play a part. Sometimes in order to remove the obstacle, you just have to dig a deep digger into real reason for the objections and overcome that issues first. And the last thing you can try is breaking it down. Now, as an entrepreneur, yes, there are so many things in your head, there are so many problems, there are so many challenges you have to face. So if you try to knock it out everything at once, there is a very less chance of success. So what you can do is always keep in mind the end objective. What is your main objective is? And there is a bigger obstacle. So you just break it down into smaller. And when thinking about challenges, breaking it down and tackle them in smaller pieces. So one thing at a time, you can break the whole obstacle and it can lead to your main objective. So these are the things which you can do in order to overcome hindrances. What are the advantages? Of course, we have an advantages of being an entrepreneur. We work in corporate, they have different advantages, but over them, we have something new here, which is why people opt to be an entrepreneur. First thing is learning to see possibilities everywhere. When you have to rely on yourself and your imagination in order to generate income, the awareness goes with tertiary. The only limit is your imagination. Once you imagine and fix your target, you can move on. So this is yourself, relying on yourself for seeing the possibilities. An entrepreneur has to develop the skill and train his or her mind to stay open and receptive to potential ideas and possibilities. No matter if the idea is small or big, you just have to stay open. But this also doesn't mean that you have to take each and every opportunity that comes to you. First, you have to understand what are the outcomes of it. If the effort taken is more than the income, then it is not useful. It is not useful. You are just spending more energy, but getting nothing out of it. But when you see another possibility where you have to spend less effort, but the outcome is more, that is what you choose. So that is a skill that an entrepreneur has to develop. But whatever the case, being open to many possibilities gives entrepreneurs a tremendous amount of choice. If you are just limited to possibilities, you will have very few options. So within that option, you have to choose either one. When you keep your mind open and take all the possible opportunities in, there are multiple choice available for you, and you can choose the best suited for your business. Next thing is defining your income. Now, when you are in a corporate office, who decides how much income you get? This is the company's budget that decides how much you are getting paid. But now, as an entrepreneur, you are the boss. So you will decide how much you are getting paid. In corporate, there are several factors play, including your boss, your company's financial budget, your board of directors, economy. There are so many factors determine whether you will be staying in a job or not. So even if you're working really hard and giving more than 100%, your salary might not reflect it, because you're working in a corporate, they are bounded by the rules. But when you're an entrepreneur, you create a relationship between your efforts and your income. The more efforts you put, the more income you get. Thus, the only two factors that determine and define your income are the market forces and you. If the market is good, you can take out and you are good to go. But even though market can be a harsh judge of an entrepreneur's skills, once you pay attention and understand the trends, understand the market, by following current market trends, you'll be able to make informed decision. You know which decision will give you most of it, which will give you profit, which will give you more profit. So you'll be able to make such decision, keeping in mind and make your business moving forward in the right direction. Next is flexibility in your schedule. As I said, when you are working in a corporate, you are bounded by their rules. It also includes your work schedule. You cannot define your own schedule. If they tell you this is the time to work, yes, of course, you have to work on that time. So when you become entrepreneur, it becomes your choice. You are the boss of your work. So which time you find it better for working, which time you find it more efficient for working, whether it's morning or night. If you are a morning people, you can start at 4 a.m. and take a tea break whenever you want. If you're a night person, you can start at 4 p.m. and work throughout the night. There is no one telling you at what time you should work. You are the boss of your timing. And the main thing is entrepreneurs focus on the results rather than the number of hours worked. Their aim is to achieve their ambition, achieve the vision. And one study also found that the result-based work, it leads to greater mental and physical wellness. When you are going through a path, there are so many problems you are working for so hard. When you focus on that problematic things, you are getting demotivated. But when you focus on result, you know that this is what you're going to achieve. Then at that time, you just lose focus on the problems that you're having right now and you get motivated. So this is what result-based work atmosphere is. And as an entrepreneur, it is something which you can do with proper practice. Next thing is enjoying your work. Even though as an entrepreneur, you can create your own schedule, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't be for long hours. Initially, when you start a business, yes, of course, there will be a lot of work, there will be a lot of trouble, you have to work overtime. Yes, of course, there will be. But once it is set, that doesn't have to be long hours of working. Unlike those energy draining hours spent on working overtime for someone else in corporate, it will be long hours spent working towards something you like. So that means you are working for something you want, not for someone else, like working in corporate. So this is something like enjoying your work, because you are giving your 100% of your time for whatever you are trying to achieve. It is your aim, and at the end you reap the rewards. So these are all the advantages faced by an entrepreneur. Now let me tell you a story of a successful entrepreneur. So I'll start up with how his life started. Most probably, many of you know him, and many of you know him by the product. Just as I said, entrepreneurs leave legacy behind. By that only you can, by that only you know him very well. So this person, when he was born, he was directly given for adoption, and their adopted parents, those were like so rich. But this guy, when he grew up in a middle class family, and he worked with his father in an electronics shop. And as his career started after his college, he started working with electronics. He was more towards electronics first. Then he left electronics. Then he went for software coding. He learned both of it, and he understood the market trends, like the market trends of electronics as well as the market trend of software programming. So after this, he got experience. And when we work in corporate, we have lots of tension, and that leads into so many problematic things. So in order to get away from this guy took a break, like for about 6 months. This guy came back to India in order to make his mind free of all those tensions he had, and he wanted a new start. So before fresh new start, he had the knowledge of the working markets, the current market trends of electronics, and the current market trends of software. So this guy, when he came back and he took a break, and then he went back to his own place, and he started an organization. This person has very little idea about software and electronics, but he had something which an entrepreneur should have: the marketing skills, current market skills. So you know the current market trends, and you know which product will survive and how it will survive. So he took a help of his friend who was good in programming. So as I said, there are multiple types of entrepreneurs. Some work just to create new things, and some work to in order to make that things come true, and some work for money. So just like this person, he used the help of his friend who just wanted to create something, but he didn't want money. He just wanted to create something new and new. And the second guy, he had the knowledge of marketing skills. So what he does, he just takes up his hardware and started selling it. And that was the beginning of selling point. So this person's name is Steve Jobs, and he was the creator of Apple. So when he started the job, he started his office. He did not have even money for a single IC chip. So what he does is that is what the challenge he faced in the initial stage. He wanted to start something, but he did not have the money. He did not have the funding. So he checked in the banks. He couldn't get it. So what he did is he sold his truck. He had one truck and he sold it just for buying that chip and buying that hardware. So when this hardware, he just published it, it got so famous that he just started from the scratch, and now you know where he is. There are so many challenges that we face as an entrepreneur, but the thing is, can you take it? Can you take it ahead? If your aim is completely to go on and make that vision come true, it is all up to you. Just have the confidence, move on, and you will get what you want. And that's all about the hindrances faced and how to overcome those. So any questions from anyone?
Participants having any queries, please ask our resource person.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll
Now,
take that silence as everything is understood. And over to you, sir.
okay.
Yeah.
Now call upon Ms. Satya Devi to deliver vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable speech about the problems faced by the entrepreneurs. I hope all of our participants are covering a lot of ideas from this session. And once again, I thank you all for attending this session. Participants, please fill the feedback and the attendance form to get the e-certificates.
Thank you, George, and thank you, Satya Devi, and thank you all participants.
Thank you, sir.